This is the Storyworks Roundtable, where we have conversations about craft, because becoming a successful author begins with writing a great story. My summer session of group coaching for novelists is now open for registration. Go to www.wordessential.com/fiction coaching. Get all the details about the session, listen to past group coaching writers describe their experience with me, and sign up for your free discovery call today. That's wordessential.com/fiction coaching. Hello and welcome to this week's Storyworks Roundtable. Today, Kathryn and I are talking about whimsy. Whimsy. It's such a good
It's a
word.
fun word.
Yes. When I was a kid, our sailboat was named Whimsy. And then our
Aw.
second sailboat was Whimsy 2, Roman numeral 2.
Uh-huh.
And then our dinghy was Whimsy 2, TOO.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Which is whimsical.
It is. It's so whimsical. I have to give my mom
That's
credit for that, I
fantastic.
think. I think that was her doing. I was just a kid, but I've always appreciated it.
It is.
Yes. So, all right. Definition of whimsy.
Mm-hmm.
Playfully quaint or fanciful behavior or humor. A thing that is fanciful or odd.
Yes.
Yes. So, Kathryn, you suggested whimsy for our topic.
I did. Oh my gosh. Yes. So, okay. Preface. I'm reading aloud to my kids. And right now we are smack in the middle of Roald Dahl's The BFG, The Big Friendly Giant. For anyone who has not read it, it's just a cute little story about this giant, and he kidnaps this little girl. It's cute, he kidnaps her, and they go on a quest to essentially save humanity from the other giants. And what makes it so whimsical is the language throughout it. And so I've been having a lot of fun reading it out loud. The giant does not speak English properly, and he uses a lot of made up words. And it just, for me as an adult, I know what all of these are supposed to be, but even for my kids, they laugh, they giggle, they find it humorous, they find it fun, and it turns this kind of dark-ish story about these giants who eat small children into a very fun and lighthearted and playful thing, because this giant is so funny and he's so whimsical. And so I wanted to talk about this art of whimsy because it does allow us to change something that maybe thematically is not lighthearted and give it that breath of lightheartedness or of playfulness or of joy. And it changes the tone of the book and the entire experience of the story. And when I think whimsy, I do think like Roald Dahl. I think Dr. Seuss, some of these more children's fiction authors. But I do think whimsy is present throughout fiction. I don't think it's only in children's literature. Those are just the easiest to reach, and especially when you're talking about made up words or funny diction or grammar in order to make things whimsical. But yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. So questions. One is whimsical writing only at home in children's literature? Do we find it in adult literature as well? And I have a thought on that. And then now I've lost track of two. I know I had more than one in my brain, but it fell out. It's that kind of an afternoon.
That's okay. Let's start with one.
Yeah, I know one thing. Oh, well, made up words, dark subject matter. I think that is a point we definitely need to dig into a little bit. And before we leave or move kind of away from the BFG, do you have a passage you want to read? Do you want to give us an example?
I wonder
kind of further set the stage. Sorry, I just put you
flipping
on the
through the book
there. Right.
All good. So he collects dreams. And here's a passage, and I'll show you in the book, it's all in capital letters. I don't know if you.
Oh, sure. Okay. So the
So the dreams
dreams.
are all in capital letters too. So it's not just the words themselves, but the way that they are on the page that is also whimsical. So it says, I is making myself a marvelous pair of suction boots, and when I put them on, I is able, ABEL, to walk straight, STRATE, up the kitchen, KITSHUN, wall and across the ceiling well. I is walking upside down on the ceiling when my big sister comes in, and she is starting to yell at me. And she is always yelling at me, yelling, what on earth is you doing up there walking on the ceiling? And I looks down at her and I smiles and I says, I told you you was driving me up the wall, and now you has done it.
That's cute. Imagine Roald Dahl writing that today with autocorrect.
It wouldn't work. And I a lot of the words are misspelled in a humorous way, and in a way that is very like, what do you call that? You pronounce it. It's in the way you
Right.
pronounce
It's
it.
phonetic.
It's phonetic. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
So a little kid can read this, as a kid who's still learning to read, can read it and understand, which I love, that kind of aspect of it. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So only at home in children's literature, or also can we find it in adult literature? Is it at home there?
Oh, I think it's universal. I just think you're going to find it in different ways. Maybe your whimsy isn't the grammar being misspelled. Maybe it's in a specific character and their brand of humor being just very playful. Maybe it's in moments or scenes where you need a breath of fresh air or levity.
Right.
You can just bring, like you said in the definition, it's that playful action. So I don't know. I don't have a specific example right now, but I feel like it's similar to humor,
Yeah.
without necessarily being fully comedic.
Right. Right. I don't think I've ever applied the word whimsical to David Sedaris's writing, but he does have this essay called Jesus Shaves, like shaves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and it's about when he was living in France and he took a French class. And so he's in this classroom with all of these other immigrants trying to learn to speak French.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does some of that funny grammar to give us the impression of these, misspoken sentences. So he's writing them in English, but he's kind of phonetically translating them into the poor
Mm-hmm.
French, right?
Mm-hmm.
And grammatically translating them into the misspoken French. And then they have this lesson about Easter, and because these immigrants are from different parts of the world,
Uh-huh.
there are different cultural and religious backgrounds in the room. And so the idea of like the Easter bunny versus, I guess in France, they have an Easter bell, right? That flies in, and it's hilarious. And I guess it is very whimsical. I mean, I think I read
Mm-hmm.
it at a more literal level. So I
Right.
wasn't reading it as something playful, but the way it's written and the way you respond to it, there is an element of silly fun
Yeah,
to it.
silly fun. I like that definition. Yeah. I'm thinking of it's a Jane Austen novel, and I'm not going to be able to remember what it is, but there's an adaptation on Netflix, and the main character will break the fourth wall and make a joke that's very lighthearted about what's going on in this scene. And to me, although that's just comedic relief in some ways, in some instances, it's also very whimsical because of the way that she does it, where she's commenting on, I don't know, like clothing, or like the way that the wind is messing with their outing or whatnot. So it's almost like bringing in the natural, almost fantastical, sometimes, in order to break that
Right.
scene up. So
Yes.
yeah. But I think using, like you said, like the Easter Bunny and the French version of the Easter Bunny, bringing in almost like that,
Bell.
the fantastical or the extra outside of what you would expect in that scene or expect in the world itself, and then twisting that around to bring the humor, I think is where it's the whimsical humor versus just making a joke. I like how I say
Right.
just making a joke, like it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah. When you mentioned that film that breaks the fourth wall, Ferris Bueller's Day Off is the
Mm-hmm.
classic example of that. And I think there are different types of humor within that
Mm-hmm.
film layered into it, but certainly Ferris Bueller breaking the fourth wall
Yeah.
as he does is whimsical because it connects the film character to the theater audience directly, which is
Mm-hmm.
unexpected, at least initially, right?
Yeah.
So that's very fun. And then, things like ending up on the parade float and doing
Mm-hmm.
Twist and Shout, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, Dunkashane. I think he does that
It's
song
like
too or something. But yeah.
unexpected bits of color. I sent my mom some little metal ladybugs for Mother's Day that just
Mm-hmm.
occurred. And I told her, here, have some whimsy for your garden, right? It's like discovering those little bits of color within an otherwise maybe utilitarian space,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I love that idea, like, where you're in this story and then all of a sudden there's just this like brightness, this flash, this thing that gives you, just makes you smile, just gives you joy,
Mm-hmm.
in either a humorous or just like you said, joyful or playful way.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, and what you said about it lightning an
Mm-hmm.
otherwise darkly themed story, which is funny because we're talking about Roald Dahl and children here,
Well, but it is,
but
but
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's a really interesting point. And when you said that, I was like, oh, I guess I've done that. So my work in progress, but I wasn't aware I was doing it. Like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
analyze what
Mm-hmm.
I was doing it, but in my work in progress, I have an omniscient narrator. And so the protagonist is like a 13-year-old girl from the wrong side of the river. And this townswoman who's very snooty and judgmental starts gossiping about her. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
this passage where the gossips of the town are spreading rumors, and one lady says she was seen in a car with boys, and another lady says she stole my good dress off the clothesline. But then
Mm-hmm.
because I have an omniscient narrator, I describe what actually happened to the dress. Like, first off, it wasn't really a good
Right.
dress. Secondly, her husband's hunting dog, who was only 9 months old, saw the dress blowing in the breeze and yanked it off the clothesline and dragged it into the woods and then rolled around on it and then peed
Oh,
on it. Right. So this crime that my protagonist is accused of committing was actually this other
playful
event.
antics of a puppy.
Exactly. And so, I guess as I wrote it, I was having fun with it and I knew
Mm-hmm.
it would be a bit of comedic relief and very lighthearted. But I didn't think, oh, it's whimsical. And it's also, you know, it's silly, it's
Mm-hmm.
playful,
It
and it
is. Yeah.
it shifts the tone of the scene from
Mm-hmm.
just kind of, I think I'm putting the reader in a position of wanting to scold these gossips for being
Right.
gossips, right?
Yeah.
And then instead you get to kind of laugh at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, like, I think children's literature is just the easiest way, I think, to study it,
Mhm.
right? It's very accessible. And so, I mean, I haven't read Roald Dahl since I was in elementary school. Reading it out loud to my kids has been educational for me as a writer. And we started reading with Billy and the Min Pins, and it's a very, very short book. And he's essentially he goes into these woods that he's not supposed to go into, and he almost gets eaten. And um it ends up saving the day. And like that's what you're talking about. It's like a dark thing. His mom said, don't go or you're gonna die. and he went anyway. And guess what? He almost died. So there's that moral of the story kind of feel to it as a parent, like, see if he just listened to his mom. But also, in
Yes.
order to save the day, he ends up flying on a swan, and then he gets to fly on a swan for the like after he's defeated the monster. The swan comes back and
Mhm.
he gets to go visit these fantastical places. So there's reward for the risk that he took
Right.
too. And I think just reading something like that and being able to say, okay, I see all of the hallmarks of story, right? I see where this could have gone a lot longer, a lot darker, a lot more in depth. But then seeing these, how he brought in the whimsy and how he did that, it's masterfully crafted.
Mhm.
So I do recommend, like, if you're looking for ways to say, oh, okay, how do I lighten this scene? How do I lighten my theme? How do I bring in whimsy? Or if whimsy isn't a word that works for you, silliness, playfulness, lightheartedness, how do I change this
Right.
tone? If you need something real short, quick, and accessible, I do recommend, pick up some good children's literature that has that hallmark, and you can really learn a lot, and read it out loud, because
Yes.
that's how they were written. They were written to be read out loud.
Right. Right. Yeah. The ear is so important
Mhm.
for storytelling, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Gosh, that children's story, like fairy tales, like these Roald Dahl
Mhm.
stories, they're so instructive. It's such a big life lesson that is presented in such a compact way with
Yes.
a very serious challenge with dark consequences,
Yeah.
threatening consequences. But because of the age of the reader, you
Mhm.
can't you can't go that dark,
No.
right? It can't be that. So then you end up with something really condensed and straightforward, like warning, risk taken, right? Risk avoided
Yes.
or
Risk of
escaped, and then
escape.
reward.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
If you think of the first Harry Potter, you've got the kids in the bathroom with the troll, and they're fighting the
Yes.
troll, and the wand goes up the nose, and there's a troll booger on it.
Yes,
It is
exactly.
so juvenile.
It's so silly.
Yes. But then you look at whichever book was the Triwizard Tournament, right?
Book 4, yeah, Goblet of Fire.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the one where Harry and Cedric both take the goblet, and it's a key, right? A port key, and they end
Mhm.
up at Voldemort's feet, and Cedric dies. So, in those 4 books, which represent 4 years, 4 ages of growth for the characters,
Mhm.
look at how much more serious and dark the risks
Yes.
and the consequences are. And there isn't an escape. Death
No.
actually occurs,
Mhm.
right? So it's interesting to think about who you're writing for and the role of whimsy when you look at it that way, right? Whimsy
Yes.
is a huge factor in children's literature, and when you get darker, we we stop working with it as much, but it doesn't
Mm.
mean we can't have it. And I think
Yeah.
going back to the Harry Potter, Rowling's work, like even in the later stories, we've got um the twins, the Weasley twins, and
Yes.
they've got like their map, their marauding map and such. So then you've got these whimsical threads woven through the story that help to
She
give us
brings in
moments of light,
Yeah.
right?
She brings in a lot of whimsy through Luna Lovegood.
Yes.
Luna is a whimsical character by nature, and everything that she does is whimsical. She messes up. She talks about creatures that nobody else knows exists, and she uses these words that aren't in the general, even the magic wielding population. She's dresses differently. She talks to things that aren't there. That's the whimsy that she
Mhm.
maintains through that story. The lightness that you can go to, and that you can, the hope that you can look towards too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it prevents the stories from just turning into this tunnel of doom,
Yeah.
right? Like the tone, the feeling of Harry Potter
They're still kids.
doesn't change so dramatically that we lose something we loved at the beginning. We maintain that
Yes.
even though we've got this maturation process and the darkening of the overall themes and the rise of
Mhm.
evil and the, greater
Yes.
scale of conflict.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go Joe.
Love it.
Yes, me too. Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anything else we want to say about Whimsy?
No. Go be whimsical.
Yes. Go write some nice whimsical
Yeah.
elements into your fiction and have
Have
fun with it.
have fun with it. Yep.
Go play. My newsletter, A Room Full of Books and Pencils, is growing every week with new reflections, writing tips, and transcripts of the podcast. It's also where I make announcements about things like upcoming writing workshops and coaching sessions. Check out A Room Full of Books and Pencils at booksandpencils.substack.com. Thank you for listening to the Storyworks Roundtable. Find all our shows, show notes, and videos at storyworkspodcast.com.